Hello YouTube, welcome back to the life of a virtual airline pilot. I'm your host, as always, Captain Mac, and the votes are in. You all have decided we are off to Newark, KEWR, via the 737, and then from there, well, we'll see, because we'll see what the vote's going to be. I already have a couple of flight options in mind for next, and I have a feeling I know what everybody's going to choose, but we shall see. But anyway, let's take a quick look at our flight here. I've already gone ahead and put it in the bids list, as you can see. United Airlines Flight 1474, Charlotte to Newark, departing 21:30-ish, depending on us. UTC, and then arriving approximately 3 hours, 2 hours later, not 3 hours. Do your math. 21 to 23 is 2. 737 for us, and it is going to be the PMDG NGX, of course. Very short flight, actually, 500 nautical miles. Plenty of packs on there. We're going to get our weather from Active Sky 2016. I have tuned down the turbulence a little bit so that we don't go absolutely bonkers. And, of course, we'll get our flight plan from PFPX and charts from Navigraph. So, yeah, let's hop in the sim. Let's get things started, and off we shall go. Alrighty, let's knock out this 8 cars really quick. Once again, we've only got the one bid in our list of flights, so all we have to do is click on Get Bid. Remember, in the past, a lot of times we had to put the flight number in there because we had flights in there that were above the flight we want to do. We're going to just get bid because it's the only flight in there, and of course the next one in the list because it's the only one. There it is, 2 hours, 1 minute, 459 nautical miles, Charlotte to Newark. Remember, we want to check and make sure that our departure airport here coincides with our current location, especially early on after a promotion. We've only got a few hours in. We certainly wouldn't want to be charged a jump seat and demoted back to first officer, because then we're going to have serious issues. So, setting up the flight really quick here. What did we say our altitude was going to be? I have to actually go look at the flight plan here. That would help. Initial cruising altitude, actually 41,000. Wow. That's, I think that's ambitious for such a short flight, but, what do you say we give it a shot? I mean, that's isn't that the max cruising altitude for this aircraft? I think maybe it is. Anyway, put that in there for the moment. Grab a previous route. Doesn't really matter which one. A few people have done this. We are doing the Barmy 1 departure. I don't see Barmy 1 on here anywhere, so we'll just grab any one of these. We are going out to fax. We'll just grab this one here. Check mark that, and then now notice, because I did this one first and then grabbed a route, I can't start the flight yet, right? The button's not highlighted. This is weird. It's just a little quirk, but if I do it in that order, click on that, click on the setup flight again. I've already done this, but just hit the check mark and then start flight, and we're good to go. And there's no no warnings or errors or anything regarding the aircraft, because there she is, the beautiful PMDG NGX 737. Now, we have spent a little bit of time in this aircraft in the past, but nothing like we're going to be spending in it today, so that's going to make this a lot of fun. We're going to go through the cold and dark start procedures and setting up the FMC, and all of that good stuff's going to be a good time. But I just want to throw a little note out there really quick. I've had a couple of comments, not a lot, and they weren't vicious or just somebody being a jerk, so I left them up there. But a couple of comments, people saying, you know, hey, if you're going to put up a video on YouTube for an aircraft, like in this case it was the FS Labs Airbus, you know, you really should take the time to study the aircraft more and get to know it. Okay, fair enough point, but let's understand a couple of things here really quick. And I was going to do a video just for this, but I'm not going to put that much time into it. Here's the deal, okay? PMDG 737, PMDG 747, iFly 747, Field Air E-Jets, the Majestic Dash 8 Q400, the Quality Wing 757, the Aerosoft Airbus series, the FS Labs Airbus, the Black Box Airbus, and I could go on for a little while of all the complex and in some cases semi-complex add-on aircraft that I have for this, okay? And believe it or not, I can go through the full startup procedure on this 737 from memory very quickly. And I could probably do it on the FS Labs Airbus now too. And I actually do know where 99% of this stuff is. However, as soon as you start trying to talk your way through it and teach it, it's one of those things where you just sometimes you draw a blank. For whatever reason, you draw a blank, folks, okay? And I thought I did a pretty good job with the FS Labs Airbus. I mean, I've got a lot of views on those videos and a lot of positive feedback. And then a couple of you came on there and said, well, you really should know the aircraft better. Now, I don't know if they're trolls. I don't think so, though, the way that they commented. Like I said, they weren't being jerks. But at the same time, it was a little overly critical. So here's my thought. My sort of challenge to you, and this is in no way meant to be like a bravado thing. Why don't you put together a video with the full procedures on the FS Labs Airbus from cold and dark startup all the way through a flight and shutdown, and without editing it out, don't you miss a beat. I want to see it perfect. I want you to hit every single point perfectly and explain it the way I do, in depth, so that people can understand it, because that's what I try to do here. I try to break things down. I try to do this tutorial that really opens it up and brings people into the aircraft who might otherwise not touch this aircraft. So yeah, sometimes I forget where the pack switch is. Sometimes there's a frickin' emergency light switch right in front of my face and I can't see it. Okay? I get it. It can be, you might look at that and say, whoa, what's this all about? Listen, I am not the master of any of these aircraft, nor have I ever said that I was. Nothing in any of my videos is intended to imply in any way, shape, or form that I know the NGX so well or the FS Labs Airbus so well that I'm as good as a real-world pilot. I'm not. Okay? I'm a real-world pilot for Cessnas, little 172s. All right? So cut me a little slack on that, guys. And please, listen, I have no problem with a little constructive criticism, but don't think I don't read the manuals and stuff on these, because I do. There was no emergency procedures for the FS Labs Airbus. It's not listed in there, okay? And so sometimes I'm going to fumble and bumble my way through. And 99% of you, awesome support, and I appreciate it. Not dogging the guys who made those comments, because I don't really mind a little constructive criticism, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job on these videos here, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job of putting this stuff together. So unless you're putting together a video that breaks it down Barney style so that everybody can understand it, please don't sit there and say that I'm not doing a good job on it or that I should be doing better, okay? Enough. I've gone off on my little rant now. I don't know why I just got a ding there. That shouldn't have dinged at me. One thing I forgot to do, because I wasn't highlighted on this. You can see we got some rain here. In fact, we got thunderstorms in the area. There you go. Thunderstorms in the area. Fantastic. That's going to be lots of fun. I forgot to double check and make sure that I had... Okay, I've already assigned axes to this aircraft. That's fantastic. We've got FS Recorder is already recording, which means we can do our elevator music and so on. So, now that I'm almost out of breath from my little rant there, here we are in our PMDG 737. Now, I've got a checklist over here, and we're certainly going to go to the checklist, but I'm going to try and do this a little different, sort of to help highlight the point that I was just making, as far as going through the cold and dark start procedures and all that. And you can see, of course, that we had the chocks installed out there. Parking brake is off. Now it's on. And I like to have the parking brake on even when the chocks are installed, because when I remove the chocks, then, actually that was... No, okay. I was just thinking about A-cars. A-cars automatically kicks in. You get the passengers loaded thing here when you turn the brakes off. Because the brakes weren't on, usually A-cars won't let you start. But with the PMDG 737, the chocks are just a visual thing. They don't actually stop the aircraft. So even when the parking brakes are off, it defaults the aircraft to parking brakes on. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So the first thing we need to do, obviously, we need to get power on the aircraft. I love this with the little, what do they call these? The eyebrow windows or the brow windows or something like that. Anyway, whew. Why am I having a hard time breathing here? Probably because I'm talking so much. Okay, so we need to get power on the aircraft first. And now, much like the 747, you do tend to bounce around just a little bit on this overhead panel. Our battery is located right here. You left click that and then close the cover. Now we've got immediate power on the aircraft, but obviously we don't want to run off of battery power for too long. Burn the batteries out, you got to restart your sim. This is the emergency lights. Same thing, left click to arm and then left click to cover to close it. And we want to go straight to turning on the APU on this thing. Now the APU is located down here. And there's a little debate, and there really is a debate, because I've talked to real world pilots who say you can just go ahead and flip on all of the fuel pumps, and I've talked to others who say no, you only flip on, I think it's the aft, or maybe it's the, yes, I think it's the left aft pump. I don't remember off the top of my head which one you flip on for the APU. But that being said, left click once, that puts the APU on, but we still need to start it. So left click it again to start it. And we haven't done our fuel yet. So we're gonna need to adjust our fuel. But right now I just want to get power on the aircraft so that everything's good to go. Why did that happen? Bumping my mouse there. So what we're watching here, this is actually the exhaust gas temperature. That's what EGT is. Exhaust gas temperature for the APU. And you can see now it's starting to come up, and it's going to come all the way up here. And then when it comes back to 4, we're going to see that this light here is going to light up. Okay, and when it does, we're going to click both of these buttons, and that's going to send the APU generator to power the aircraft. So let's just wait a second for that. And while we're doing that, we can actually turn our logo can be on if we want. Strobe should be off, anti-collision can be on. So we'll have those on. I'm going to turn the starter to both because it's just simpler that way. So there it is. It's coming back to 4. Once it settles, there you go. APU gen off bus. Left click each of these, and now the APU is powering the aircraft. Okay, recirc fan, left and right recirc fans were on auto. We can leave those there. The packs are currently off. We can left click those once to put them on auto. And we can leave the, actually let's put the isolation valve to auto. We'll right click that one. Bleeds are already on, so we're good to go on those. When we get ready to start the engines, we won't have to mess with anything. Yaw damper, all of this different stuff doesn't need to come on right now. It needs to come on once we start the engines. So we're pretty much good to go as far as having power on the aircraft, and that's the big thing right now. Let's see if I put the, I did, good. Way up here is where you go for your IRS alignment. Okay, and that's these two right here. But before we can actually do it, let's make sure our FMC is ready to go here. And the speed brake for this view is always in the way, so I just extend the speed brakes. It is what it is. So dual FMC ops restored, good to go. Put these both on FMC. Actually, this one we're going to go to FS actions first, because what I want to do, ground connections are good. Now, I could go in here. You can turn these on without any power on the aircraft, and you could go in here, wheel chocks are set, and you could attach ground power. I just didn't do that this time. I chose to go ahead and use the APU right from the start. But I do want the pitot covers off. We're not going to need those on there, and we're going to leave the ground chocks on for the moment. So I'm going to have to remember to come back and turn those off. Go to our fuel page here. This is the total fuel on board. I can set it to full, 2/3, 1/3, all that good stuff. But according to our flight plan, which I'll bring over here, we're going to need 10,741 pounds of release fuel. Now, because I talk a lot, as we all know quite well, I'm going to round that up just a little bit to account for the extra APU burn time. So I'm just going to put it at 11,000 pounds. So put this bad boy back over here and type in 11,000 and clicker right there. Bam, 10,999 we're all burning. And you already see the fuel quantity changed on here. Now this particular livery, which I got through the PMDG Operations Center, is supposed to be the setup that United actually uses, and verified as the setup that United actually uses. So you'll notice that the displays are a little different here than you might have seen in some other videos with the PMDG NGX. So just something to keep in mind there. Alright, I did update the AirX cycle this morning, so we're good to go on that. So we can go to position initialization. And we can't do anything with this right now because we haven't touched our IRS system yet. So what? Just like we do with the 747, you're gonna right-click it twice to nav. It goes on DC, and then it'll go to align. Wait till that one goes to align, and then left-click them both over to align. Now, unlike the iFly 747, which seems, I don't know if it's a weird little quirk of that aircraft, or if that's the way the 747 actually is, but these will remain on align until the alignment is complete. So once that's done, you can see we can set our IRS position now, and the best way to do that is click next page, grab either one of these right here. They should be the same. So we'll just click right there, it puts it in the scratch pad, go back to previous page and put it in there. And now the alignment process should start. I did learn not too long ago that this is the recall button. So if I get confused in a little while and I say, where's the recall button? Just make note that I did actually say something about it. That's recall. So when you click on that, you see everything lit up again. Clear it off. Little side note real quick in case anybody's wondering about it or whatever. This is the default Charlotte Airport. Now, it looked different when I flew in here in the FS Labs Airbus, but this is that new Rex Airports thing. That's what we're looking at here. So I changed the jetways because I thought they'd look a little better, and I changed the building because the building that I had before had that little stop thing up here, right? But because it's a tiled texture, it had, you know, it had one every like 5 feet, and it looked really chintzy and cheesy to me. You know, under here it kind of looks so. You can kind of tell that's a picture on there. You sort of lose a little bit of the three-dimensional look to it, but overall not too bad. And it's not just building textures, it's ground textures too, so just something to keep in mind. Okay, so moving on. So we've already gone ahead and we've got our alignment taking place here. And remember now, right now I'm just doing this sort of as a flow. I'm not looking at the checklist right now. We're going to go back to the checklist here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and set up our flight plan. Starting with, come on brain, function here. Click on your route page. Now we've got a company route already in there. It's going to be KCLT. Where's the L? There it is. KCL. You notice how it's like blinking at me every time I do that. KCLT to KEWR. That's what you voted for. And I always leave the 01 designator on there. And then we're going to click next to company route, and it pulls that up for us. Now, if the route's not in there, it should give you an error. But I haven't actually run into that problem, so I couldn't verify what happens if the route's not in there. The flight number is 1474. There we go. And I don't think we don't. This is our arrival here, which apparently is already in there, and then direct to FAC, which is not what we're doing. But anyway, let's go ahead and activate that, execute, and roll right to performance initialization page. And for gross weight, click it. No, it's zero fuel weight. I'm sorry. That'll do gross weight for us. So click it twice. Once puts your zero fuel weight down here, twice puts it there, and then that takes care of gross weight. Reserves. I've mentioned before, you know, in the 747, you can't do like 2,000 pounds in that thing because it's nothing for one of those engines. But in this guy, you can put 2,000 pounds as your reserves, and it's telling me no, so that means we're going to have to do 2.0, and that'll work just fine. Reserves. Cost index is going to be 75 for us. That should work just fine. I think I've mentioned it in the past with the cost index. Some airlines in the real world will have a set cost index. This is a cost index you're going to fly at, no options, blah, blah, blah. Others, they leave the cost index up to the pilots, and having actually sat on the flight deck of a 737 for a particular airline while they were doing while they were setting up their pre-flight, when they talked about the cost index, what they did is they looked at arrival times, and they said, okay, well, if we put in, they put in a cost index, and they said, okay, you can see that's going to get us there way too early, so let's go ahead and crank that back, and so on and so forth. So they will adjust the cost index accordingly, and we can do that in flight too. Flight level is going to be 410. Again, I think that's a little optimistic, but we'll give it a shot anyway. N1 limit, we're going to go ahead with a full takeoff. I'm not too worried about it. And typical standard climb power. Takeoff page, we're going to do flaps 10, I believe. Yeah, we'll do flaps 10. That'll work just fine. And then for the center of gravity and trim, click it once. There's the center of gravity. Click it again, and then it tells you your trim at 4.67, which we can see when I get this out of the way. There's 5 right there. So you can see that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4.67. It's got to come up just a bit more than that. It's got to be a little over halfway between those two notches there. And I'd say that's pretty good right there. It doesn't have to be dead on precise, but you can also hold the hand, see, and that tells me 4.55. So if I wanted, I'd go up just a little bit more. I can get it exact to 4.67 if I want. Maybe. Oh, there it is, 4.67. Bam, look at that. Sometimes it can be hard to get the exact number on there. So I wouldn't sweat it too much if you're having a hard time getting the number exact. Okay, let's get this out of the way again. And let's go to our departure and arrival page. So we're departing, obviously, KCLT. Now you see it's got an arrival option here, and that'll remain there. So if I take off and I have to do an immediate return to the airport, I should be able to go in here and click in the arrival and then put in my approach and all that stuff, just to help me with guidance. So, but our departure is going to be the Barmy one, which is right there, and we're taking that. Let's see, what was our wind again? Let me check our wind. Our wind is 066. So we're going to be taking runway 05, and we're going out to RDU. So that's our transition, RDU. So Barmy 1 off of runway 5 to RDU, and we'll execute that, go back to our route page, and then now I hop over to the legs page and take a look here. And when we brief the departure, you'll see that there are vectors in there, and then it's out to Meshy, Gulfy, Barmy. Next page, Bada, RDU, then... Now, FAK was already part of the route, so that's why it's in there. But from RDU, we're going to go on to our arrival. And our arrival starts at, actually, FAK. So let's see what happens when we do this. We go departure, arrival again. Click on the arrival. Now, I already know what runway we're going to be using, but just in case the wind shifts, I'm not going to put it in yet. But I really hope the wind doesn't shift, and you'll see why when we do the approach briefing. But anyway, we're going to take the Dillon 4 arrival. We're transitioning at FAK. And then I'm not going to put the approach in there yet, okay? And I can always come back and put that in later. So we'll execute that and go back to our legs page. So Gulfy out to Barmy. And then you can see it didn't put FAK in there twice, but it did leave a route discontinuity. And I don't actually want that in there. So just click next to FAK and then put it right where the discontinuity is. Execute that, and you're good to go. So FAK, OT, Paleo, Peds, Fuber, DQO, Steffi, Somto, and you'll see all these during the arrival briefing are Dillon, Mercer, and Metro. So all of those look good. There are a couple altitude restrictions already placed in there because those are part of the arrival. So the reason the rest of them aren't in there, okay, these are all altitude restrictions. So those are set based on the arrival procedure, but you notice Peds doesn't have an altitude or anything. None of these have altitude set in there. The reason for that is our IRS isn't aligned yet. Once our IRS is aligned, then it's going to come back and it's going to populate all that. So, moving forward here. Click on the route page, back to the takeoff page, and now you see we've got V speeds available to us here. Okay, and in order to put the V speeds in, all we need to do is to click each one, not right click, but click each one of these line select keys here. However, if we go to this page, we've got some more information we can put in if we want. The runway is going to be wet, right? So just to see if it changes it. So we got 129, 130, 141. We're going to go to a wet runway, and our runway wind is 066 at 14. So we're going to go 66/14. Put that in for the runway wind. There is no slope on the runways here. In the real world, there is a slope, but there's no slope on the runway here. And the temperature, where's the temperature at? Temperature is 19, so that is correct. Let's see if what is SEL? You know what? I need to figure out what SEL is. We'll have to do that on another day. Acceleration height is at 1,000 feet AGL. I don't think that's actually correct based on our departure. Let me see here. Acceleration is at 1260, and airport elevation is 748. So that's not actually right. So our acceleration height, if we're at 748 feet and we need to accelerate at 1,260 feet MSL, that's only about 500 feet, right? But you know what? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave the XL height at 1,000 feet, but we could change that. So, well, here it is. It shows 800 feet AGL here. What's the difference between XL height here and XL height here, I wonder? Not really sure. Maybe one of you knows what's the difference between this XL height and this XL height. I know what reduction is. That's where the engines throttle back for a climb thrust. So, but anyway, so now we've got that information in there. Let's go ahead and press on. Go back over to page 1, and you can see now our takeoff speeds have changed. So V1 is 114. Why is it so much lower, you might be asking? Well, I have an answer for that, believe it or not. It's because the runway is wet. So with a wet runway, it's going to take a lot more distance to stop if we need to do a rejected takeoff, right? So if we do a rejected takeoff, and originally it was 129, if we're doing 129 knots, we might not be able to, stop on that runway. Okay, rotate went down just a little bit, and that's based on the wind, and then V2 remained the same. So we're good to go there. So let's go ahead and put those in. Okay, those are all in there. And then if I don't want them over here, I can hit the QRH off, and that gets rid of them for me. But if I want to change them, or if I make a change and they get deleted, you have to turn QRH back on in order to select those into those slots there. So there we go. Back over to the position initialization page, and we are still aligning here. I think actually we do go back to nav now. That's probably where I messed up. See, it's actually been a little while since I've been in this aircraft. I think we can flip over to nav. So you give it enough time to align, and you flip the nav. Okay, and we get something in our IRS display up here. I don't fully understand all of that. Now, though, if I go back down here, you can see it is aligned. The issue, of course, that I have is that it's not giving me any alignment information. It's not telling me how long until alignment, which can be a little obnoxious, but not the end of the world. Anyway, pressing on. So we've got our... this little light, by the way, I just noticed. It's telling me that my speed brakes are deployed. Okay, so we've got our FMC set up. Fuel is set up over here. We don't need to remove chocks yet. There are a few more things I want to do before we pull out of here. Flight directors need to come on. Auto throttle can be armed. We could set our initial altitude, which we're going to set it straight to 41,000. I don't recall any altitude restrictions on departure, but I'll double check that here in a second. There's 41. And then you should set this to your V2 speed, which for us was 141, right? I've never been comfortable doing that. To me, it should be set to your climb. Well, V2 is your climb speed, right? Let's do that. Let's set it to 141. Okay, because when we hit our LNAV and VNAV, she's gonna go. Now we can hit those now, actually, believe it or not. So there's VNAV, there's LNAV, both are armed. One thing I've learned about this aircraft, if you click those two buttons and they do not, one of them doesn't arm, that means there's something messed up in your FMC. It's not completely initialized yet, so that's something to keep in mind as well. We did say we're going to do flaps 10 for takeoff. We'll turn the auto brakes to RTO. We need to set the transponder code. And let's see here. Oh, I went a little too far there. Where is the... Oh, there it is, right there. Let's test that. And you can see it's going through its TCAS test right now.
TCAS test passed.
Okay, TCAS test is passed. And then there's another test over here. This is for your ground proximity warning test. Okay? So if I remember correctly, a quick click and it goes through the short test, and if you hold it down, it goes through the long test. We're going to go through the short one because the short one's actually kind of long.
Glide slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up.
It's almost done. Still doing some stuff on here. Now, what would be interesting is if the wind shear function actually worked with Active Sky. Now, somebody asked me to do a tutorial on weather for a couple of different aircraft and integrating weather. And you know what? I'm probably going to do that, but I need to get to understand a little bit better myself. I don't fully understand how the weather from Active Sky 16 integrates with individual aircraft. So in the FS Labs Airbus, it's not a problem. It's in there automatically, and it's easy to go, easy going. But in the PMDG, I know that it's a little bit different, and so I need to read some of the documentation on Active Sky 16 and the PMDG and see if it integrates with the NGX. I don't know if it does. I know it does with the 777, or at least Active Sky Next did. So I'm assuming 2016 does as well, but I'm not sure about the NGX. So that's something I'll look into. So for whoever asked that, I haven't forgotten about it. I just need to look into it a little bit. Okay, so at this point, I think we're pretty much just about ready to go. So let's go ahead and let's hop over to our checklist here. And let's see if we've got everything done. Now this checklist that I pulled, I forget where in particular I pulled this one. I think some things are probably in the wrong spot. For example, for the it's setup, it says overhead setup, then FMC initialization, then main panel setup, then pushback and start. That's the way the checklist is laid out. And I'll probably lay it out the same for the little pop-ups that you're going to see coming up here in just a second. But some of these things I think are incorrect. For example, on the overhead setup, it tells you turn the yaw damper on. I don't think you need to turn the yaw damper on until the engines are running, because that's where you're going to get your hydraulic power and all that anyway. Now, that being said, I'm not 100% positive hydraulic power has anything to do with the yaw damper, but it makes sense that it would, right? So anyway, I don't think yaw damper needs to be on, but flight control panel check, we've already got that set. Yaw damper, I'm leaving it off for the moment. Fuel system panel check, all the fuel pumps on as required. Now, we don't have fuel in the center tank, right? Fuel quantity in the center is 0, okay, and then we've got 5 and change on each side. So technically, I'm not going to be needing these center fuel pumps, and they're in all the fuel pumps are actually in the off position right now, but we can turn on all of these fuel pumps. We can leave those off. You notice there was no pressure light on those because there was no fuel in there. If I turn them on, I get a low pressure light because there's no fuel in them. And you just left click those to turn them on and off. So easy enough. So fuel pumps are set. Let's see, electric panel is good. Equipment cooling, I don't even know what you do with equipment cooling on this, to be honest with you. Window heat can come on. I'm okay with that. Window heat's way up here, so these are all the window heats. Window heats should go on anyway. That was the test switch accidentally. We can turn the probe heats on now, and hydraulic pumps, we're going to leave those off at the moment, and the yaw damper is going to stay off at the moment as well. Moving on. Just says hydraulics panel check, and I'm gonna have to, some of this stuff I'm gonna have to sort of dig out because I don't know who made this checklist. I'm not saying they did a bad job on it or anything. It just, some of it's kind of weird to me. So it's left pack and right pack are on auto. Isolation valve is supposed to be open. Pressurization panel checked, and we've got that. So recirc fans, packs on auto. Isolation valve. It just says open here. I put it on auto, but you can, that's closed, that's auto, that's open. So you can leave it right there too, that's just fine. I just usually put it to auto, it's just one of those habits. Let's see, where are we at? It's kind of a long list here. Flight altitude set for cruise, we didn't do that yet. So this is our flight altitude here, and this is our landing altitude. So we want to go up to 41,000, right? So it goes to 42. 41,000, and then let's look at our chart here really quick for, I'll just pull this one up over here. I just want the elevation. So 17 feet is the elevation for Newark. So we can just put this, so it's not a negative, obviously. I scrolled too far. So I'm going to put it at 50 feet, the closest positive number to the landing altitude. So there we go. So that's set. Exterior lighting as required right now. And then it says for the ignition left or right. I always leave it on both, just because it's simple. And there's, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and get our landing lights, our seatbelt sign on, and our no smoking sign. And then that takes us into the FMC initialization checklist. Route clearance has already been obtained. We checked the nav data version. That's already good to go. Position initialization has been set. Departure has been set. The route has been entered. The legs have been checked for correctness. Performance initialization has been completed. And N1 limit is set for takeoff. Flaps and V speeds are set for takeoff. And the pre-flight is complete. And then we can set the climb page for departure if we want. And you can just do that by going to climb. And then if you want to set information here. So our cruise altitude is set for flight level 410. Our speed is set for 250 below 10,000. That's our speed restriction, right? And I usually actually set that at 240 below 10,000. Execute that, okay? And then while we're climbing, if we want to make a change, we can change to either our max rate of climb or our max angle of climb. And we can do that by simply clicking on one of these buttons and then executing it. And you can see it does have our acceleration speed as 1260 here, so that's interesting as well. So we're good to go on that, and that takes care of the FMC initialization. We put that back on the legs page. So that moves us into the main panel setup. Minimums we can set as desired. We're not setting the minimums right now, but you do that from this guy right here. This should be our minimum setup right here, and it's not actually doing anything. Why is it not? There it is. Okay, so that's your baro minimums right there if you want to use barometric pressure. And then if you click it in the back, that switches it to radar, and that should be our radar minimums, but I'm not actually, oh, there it is over here. I had to find it. So this configuration, the way this is set up, is a little bit different. Some of you may have already noticed. I kind of prefer the other one. But anyway, so if we want to set our radio minimums to 200, we could do that right here. And again, to do that, you just click, you left click back here, and then you right click to put it to baro. So we'll leave it on radio. I prefer radio. Let's see what else we got over here. Flight path vector as desired. It is. We're good. It's so what it's talking about is our flight path going to go where is it going where we want it to go. And so what we can do is we can zoom that out, and it's now remember it's on vectors right now. So when we take off, it's vectors, and then we have to turn over here. And if I remember correctly, it's just like the 747. It will not automatically switch to meshy or golfy or barmy. Once we take off and we start to make our right-hand turn, then we're going to have to go down here and grab whichever waypoint we want and put it as the active waypoint in order for that to work. So we're good to go on that. Mode selector on map, that's this guy right here. You can go VOR, approach, we were on map, and then flight plan. And you guys all know how plan works. You can step through your waypoints here, right? So vectors first, then meshy, then golfy, then barmy, and so on. Alright, so that's how the plan page works. We'll leave it on map, that's where we want it. What else? Range selector as desired. Center switch is as desired. That's whether or not you want it centered on the aircraft. That's clicking the center of this button right here. Okay, so if we click it there, you see it changes to this compass rose view. Okay, I've actually never popped that one up. Look at that. Is that a vertical profile? Ooh, I'm going to leave that up right now. Wonder if it'll leave that on with map. No, it won't. Okay, so let's leave it on the compass rose. I want to see how see if this vertical profile view does what I think it's going to do. I like that. Cool. Learn something new every day. All right, MCP course set if needed. We don't need to set the course right now. Again, it's just vectors coming out. If I remember, we'll set our heading to runway heading when we get on there. I almost always forget that. It's never on a checklist. Let's see. Flight director is on. We've got them both on. Auto throttle, it says off. I always turn them on here. I don't know what difference it makes. It's not gonna go into auto throttle just sitting here, so I'm not that worried about it. Heading, runway heading. We could pull the runway heading right now. If I go over here, we're taking runway 5, which is where you at? 055. So let's put it in right now because I know I'll forget. Okay, so runway heading is set. We could set that as our course too if we wanted, but we're not going to. Altitude set for initial clearance. We're not using ATC, so we're going straight up on this one because there's no altitude restrictions on the departure as far as memory serves. Yeah, no altitude restrictions. I was just looking at the chart real quick. Autopilots are off. That makes sense. Primary flight display, no flags. We don't have anything except that TCAS is off, and we'll turn that on when we push back. Auto brake is set to RTO. Engine instruments, they're fine. The engines aren't running yet, so we're not actually using the radios, so I'm not setting those right now. Let's see. Center pedestal speed brake is down, which it is. Thrust levers are set to idle. Engine start levers are in the cutoff position, and stabilizer trim is set. So trim is obviously this one. These are in the cutoff position, which is down. If you bring them up, that puts them in the idle position for start. And that means we're up to our pushback and start checklist. So I'm actually going to go through this checklist right now, even though we won't be doing some of this until we actually push back. So passenger boarding is complete. Doors are closed and locked, and we can check doors if we pop this up. Since I've got this guy on the menu here, we can go to doors, and you can see again if I click on this, it opens the door. So they're all closed right now, and those are all closed right now. So we're going to go on all of our doors. And we'll go to the ground connections page because we're going to need to remove chocks in a minute. Let's see. Clearance for push, we're good on that. Throttles are idle. Start levers are in the off position. Packs need to go off. And normally I just go through this as I'm pushing back, but so right click the packs to turn them off. Recirc fans can go off, but we want to make sure that the isolation valve, if I remember correctly, stays in the open position. APU is running. Bleed air pressure is checked. That's this guy right here, duct pressure, I'm assuming. That's the only pressure valve I see. That's fuel temp over there. Yeah, so fuel pumps are on. Anti-collision lights, we already turned those on. Parking brake will be released once we push back, and then ground crew once we're ready for start. Now it says on here when your N2's at 20%. Originally I was told by somebody when your N2's at 15%, and I'll explain this a little more as we get going here.
Hello everyone, and
that's when you
welcome
introduce
aboard
fuel. Well, that's not the
Phoenix
case
Virtual
according to a
Airways.
737
The guy
training
flying
captain in
plane
the
is
real
Captain
world that I
Mac.
happen to know. He said it's at 25%,
Yeah,
or
he's
you're
an
going to
alright
start the engines.
pilot, I suppose.
So,
I only say
this is
that
your
because,
APU bleed.
well,
APU
he's
bleed
kinda
has
hot.
to be on, okay? And then you want
but
your
since
engine
getting
bleeds
blown
on
up in
here as
Iraq,
well.
his
So
eyes don't work
we're
quite as
good to
well
go
as
on
they
all of that.
used to.
Yeah, we're
He's
ready
a
to push
little
back.
nuts. Randomly he
Clear
was
that off
screaming
for the
to
moment.
microphone. Don't worry about it.
Hey,
It's
my
okay.
TSX is working today.
Okay. So part of my job
let's see.
is
Prepare
to
for
tell you
pushback and
idiots
departure.
about
And
the
as I get
safety
ready for
stuff.
this, I'm going to pause the
So,
recording so that I
first
can
thing we're
take
gonna go
care
over
of making sure
is
I haven't missed
seatbelts.
anything, and then I'll be back in
so
time to push
seatbelts,
back.
they work pretty easily.
All right, we're all
not
set for
too
the pushback
complex.
here. They
Take
are
one
ready to
metal
go.
end
I've got my track
and
IR
shove
hat
it
on
into
and
the
all
other.
that good stuff, so I think we're ready to rock and
Then
roll. So
you'll
let's
grab
go
the
ahead
strap and
and
pull it. This will
remove
cause
the
the seatbelt
chocks.
to tighten around
That's
your
done.
waist.
We can
Don't be scared.
now,
It's supposed to
where's
do
my
that.
menu page?
In
There it
order
is,
to take
menu.
off the seatbelt,
We can now go
you lift
to
up
the
little metal
FMC. Real
latch.
quick, PMDG
It
setup real
loosens
quick.
it, I think.
Is
Yeah,
aircraft.
and then we'll just go
We
with
can
that.
change the
Just pull it
displays,
off.
the equipment.
We suggest that
Yeah,
you keep
okay,
your
take your time,
seatbelt
dude.
on
I
and
like to go in here
fastened
usually.
throughout
I'll
the
go in
whole
here
entire
and
flight in
I
case of
will
turbulence,
make sure
but you don't
that
have to.
I don't do air
I
stairs.
wouldn't.
Short field
That would
package.
be
Not all of
stupid
them have
and
it, but
very
I'll usually put it in there. It makes landings
so
a little
enough of
easier on some of the
seatbelts.
short runways. I don't do flight test package or
Next,
anything like that.
emergency exits. We'll go over the emergency exits. There are a few of them on the plane, and every one
Now
of
he's going
them
to say that like
has an
50
exit
times,
sign
so I'm not going to take a lot of time
above
here.
it.
But
I want
you can also go in
everyone
here
look
and
around.
under simulation you can.
Good. Locate the exits.
I'm going to do
Nice.
service-based failures
Now,
pretty soon
find the
because
one
I'm sure we're going to
closest
spend
to
a
you.
lot of time in this. And you can also
Perfect.
do pause
That
at top
is your
percent, which
exit.
pauses like
If
20
something
nautical
bad
miles out.
happens,
I'm not going to do
that
that right
will
now.
Or go to exit.
And you can change how long it takes. It's set on fast 30 seconds, so the IRS
you are
aligns
leaving the
almost
plane,
immediately. So just a
the
couple of
floor
options there.
lights
We can go into those at a
There
later
you
date.
go. We call it floor
Please stop.
exit lighting. Now this is very important.
Okay,
We have
last thing
had
before we
some
push
issues
back,
in the
note
past with
that
this.
our
If you
altitudes are
look
now
at the
put in here
door,
because the IRS alignment was completed.
This
All right,
handle
we're
can go
releasing
up
parking brakes already.
or down.
There you go.
So now you have to look for the arrow. Whichever way the arrow is pointing, the handle needs
All right,
to
so
go
as we're
up.
pushing back, we're going to
So
start
if
with
the
engine.
arrow is
Oh,
pointing
itchy
down,
nose. We're going to start with engine number
grab
2
the
over here.
push it
Okay.
down.
And
Pointing up,
engine start
handle
is
goes up.
really
That'll
actually
open the
quite
door.
simple in this bad boy. You
Alright,
got to make
it's
sure your packs are off
It's
and
pretty complex,
your
I see.
bleeds
I
are on.
understand. I saw a few confused looks in the
Now you
crowd.
could
It's not
select,
that
you
hard.
could go
It's
to
really not.
ignition right or ignition left.
Alright.
Engine number 2 is the right
Now,
engine, of course, or you can leave it on both like I do. It's
Attached
up
to
to
the
you.
under part of the
But you're going to
door
flip this
is
to
a slide.
ground.
It inflates.
Okay,
And
that's it. I don't have to
somehow
touch anything else up
you can
here.
use it as a boat.
And
Pretty
you'll
cool.
notice, little
But
chop
if we crash
there.
in the water, we'll probably
Okay,
all
here's
die,
our
but-
N2 coming up,
So you know,
right
there's
here.
a
So when this gets to
slide.
25, not 20, okay, when that gets to
So
25,
now-
we're going to introduce
now
fuel.
we'll
And it's
talk
okay if
about
it goes a
the
little
oxygen
over, but you don't
So
really
the
want to do it while it's
oxygen
under
masks will drop
25.
down
But
in
you'll
the
see it
event
starts to
of
slow down around 25. So
If
now we're
this
at 25, you
happens,
just left
grab
click
the mask,
number 2.
put it on your
That
face,
introduces fuel
over
into the
nose and
engines.
mouth
And
area.
now you'll see the N1 is
And
going to start
there's
to
a
come
strap
up
attached to it.
along
You
with the
stick that
N2.
thing around the back of
And
your
we're going to
head,
be rocking and
good to
rolling.
go. Oh, start breathing. You have to breathe. That's how they work. We suggest that you put the mask on yourself first and then help anybody that needs help. If you put it on them first,
I really need to
you'll
find the
probably
other
run out of
checklist I had
run
for
out
this.
of
I had a
oxygen,
checklist that
pass
I liked a
out,
lot better.
and die.
Parking
It's
brakes
just, it's
on.
not a pretty sight, so just put it on yourself first.
I had a checklist that I liked a lot better
You'll
than
just-
this one. I don't
it
like
works
this
out better
checklist
that
as
way.
much. I'm going to
Alright.
use it for this
Um,
flight, but I need to see if I can find my other checklist.
Yeah,
so you
if
might
you have
notice a
any
difference in
problems,
what the pop-ups have been
you can
compared to what
call
I've been
one of
saying,
us.
because I really hope I
Someone
can
in
find that
uniform
other
might
checklist.
be
But anyway,
available to help you.
so we wait for it to
No
stabilize, which it's
promises,
almost
but
done
you
doing that
can
already.
try.
Boy, we got a lot of good rain out there, don't we?
Alright.
What's the temperature?
Okay.
Plus
In
19.
case
We
of
need to keep an eye on that in case
emergency,
we need to turn any
you
ice
are
on
to
during climb.
assume
Okay.
The bracing position. That's some stupid thing. Okay.
Kind of annoying all the talking,
So
isn't it?
apparently.
Okay, so we're going to go there. We're going to
lean
leave the packs
forward,
off. We have this on
you
both, but if
put
we had
your
used the ignition right, then we need to
hands
flip
on
it to
the
left,
top
and then we're
of
going to
your
roll
head
this one to
while you hold
ground.
this little card.
And same thing.
Your elbows.
So that one's on ground
You
now.
Put them against your thighs.
And there you go. You see the
And you
N2
make
starting
sure
to come
your
up. I
feet
can see
flat
it
on the
probably a little
floor
better
and
than you
stay
can.
like
So I'm
that.
waiting for this to hit
Don't know
25 or
why
higher.
Right is clear.
Do that. It's
Thank
not
you.
really going to save you. If we're going to die or crash, you're just going to die. That's not going to... You know, if it makes you feel better, go ahead.
There's
Just
25. Go ahead and introduce the
Right.
fuel.
So now... Sit life vest.
And let her come
Okay.
on up.
So,
So,
life vest is
I'm thinking about
located
turning the
under your
service-based
seat,
failures
or
on
between the
the
armrests.
aircraft. In order to
figure
do
it
that,
out.
though, you need to fly
Check
the
it out,
same
Sichuan. It is.
tail number a lot before
Alright,
you'll
so,
start to notice any failures. And that being said, you can
when
actually
you're told
service
to
the
do
aircraft,
so,
change the oil,
you
things
will
like that,
open up the
to
pouch,
prevent failures from appearing. The reason I'm
remove
thinking
the
about
vest,
turning it on is
stick it over
some
your head.
legitimate real in-flight
There's some
emergencies might be
straps.
worth our time,
I
even
think
if we
they
don't
go
get
around
credit
your
for the flight.
waist.
I think
Yeah.
we've reached the point where we
Around
might
your waist.
want to consider
There's some
doing
kind
some of that
cord
stuff,
somewhere
right?
you pull the
So,
cord.
I'm thinking about turning it on, but what I'm
honestly,
thinking about doing
don't
is,
be
I
so
think
hasty
maybe a
with the bag.
custom Captain
Look at
Mac
it, there's
livery
some
with
directions.
like a
You
bunch
just-
of different
just read the
airlines on
directions.
there,
I'll tell you
listed
what
on
to
there,
do.
so that I can fly that
And then
aircraft
you'll
every
get to
time.
go. Yeah.
If I'm flying, if the flight for PVA calls for a
one more
737
piece of advice.
200 all the way up to
Your
900,
seat
I can
cushions.
fly any
Yeah, they can be
737
used as
I
a
want. So I'm
floaty
thinking
thing,
a
so,
737
if anything
7 or
goes wrong with
800
your,
with a
life
custom
vest, you
livery.
can
So
just
that
grab
being
one of the
said,
seat cushions. They float.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I can do a livery
Alright,
myself.
now-
It's a pain in
now
the
we have
butt,
to
but I
ask
can
you to
do
turn
it.
off
But
your
I don't want
phones
to.
or any
I don't want to
other
mess with it.
electronic
Instead, what I'd
devices.
like to do
Put 'em onto
is I'd
airplane
like to
mode.
create a
No,
livery
honestly,
challenge.
there's no reason
So
for
any
it.
of
We
you
just like to be
painters
jerks.
out there who are watching
So,
this
but you have to do
show,
it.
if you know
Okay,
how to
this is a
do
no
repaints
smoking
for the
flight.
PMDG
In
737,
the
let's
past, there
call
have
it an
been
800. That's
people
a good
that have messed
aircraft.
with the smoke
So
detectors
737
and
800 custom
smoke in the
Captain
bathrooms.
Mac
They totally got caught.
repaint.
We know when
Okay,
you do that,
and here's
and you
here's
break
my
the trail.
requirements.
So, just
Okay,
try,
it
just
has to look
you'll be
cool.
fine.
I don't want something that looks
So everything
silly.
I went over
Okay,
in this little safety
and it
briefing,
has
you
to
guys,
list.
is
It doesn't have to
actually
list
located
every
on the
airline in the
pamphlet,
world that
which is
flies
right
a
in front of you.
737,
You can
but
look through
it has to have
We
all
are
the.
supposed
It
to
has to have a
agree to do
large
that.
variety of
you
airlines that
just do
fly
it anyway.
737s
If you have any
listed
questions,
on
you
it,
can
and I
ask
think
me
the
or any
best
other
way to
crew
have
member.
them listed is to have
Let's have a good flight.
a small, a small version of their standard logo, like Southwest has their Southwest logo, not their paint scheme, their logo, right? And then they should be on both sides of the aircraft, kind of like you would have on like a NASCAR race car, like decals, right? So that's what I'd like to see, a cool looking paint scheme that's got a large variety of airlines that fly the 737, U.S. and European and other parts of the world. As like decals on the aircraft. And so if you're interested in doing this paint scheme challenge, and you didn't watch this part, I'll put a little note in the comments so that you can come back and try and find the requirements for it. But whoever wins the challenge, that will be the paint scheme that I will fly anytime I fly the 737. So your paint scheme will show up every time, and I will credit you in the video every single time that I fly your paint scheme, and you'll have my my eternal gratitude as well, because I'd really appreciate if somebody could do that. So there you have it. Let's do that, and then I can turn on service-based failures, and every time I fly a 737 I'll be flying that one, and eventually what should happen is we should start running into the need for emergency procedures, which means I'm going to need to do a lot of reading here pretty soon. So there we go. That would be awesome if you guys would do that. That'd be really cool. Okay. Start is complete. Passengers are probably in the back going, why is it so stinking hot in here? Let's turn our recirc fans on, right click those, left click those, and let's put that to auto. We can turn the APU bleed off now. We leave the other bleeds on. We're good to go on those, and we can turn the APU off. So what we want to do to turn the APU off is you want to send the power back to the APU. That's the way I remember it. So you click these to send it back over here, and then, whoop, that was the start button. Then we can right click it to turn it off. Okay, and then it should start cooling down here shortly. It is off, so You right click it to turn it off, not left click it. Let's turn the taxi lights on while we're up here. We don't need the landing lights. Strobe lights technically don't need to be on until we're ready to take off. Wing lights and wheel well lights all on. We're good to go on that. Yaw damper can come on at this point. Hydraulic pumps can come on. Again, I'm just doing a flow here, guys. We don't need any lights in here. We're good to go on that. And I think that's pretty much it. We do have a couple more things to do, though. We want to go ahead and turn our TCAS on. We could have turned it on while we were parked, but we didn't. All the way up to TARA. We're good to go on that guy. We don't need to do anything with the radios right now, so nothing to mess with there. Auto throttle's already on. We don't need any lights inside the cabin, so let's look at our... I need to switch pages here now. Let's look at our after start checklist on here. Engine generator's on. That's what I did when I put the power back to the APU, so to speak. Probe heat is on and tested. Now I clicked on the test briefly, but that's the test light. I don't know. I think it only works like if we turn the window heat off. I think, yeah, that's all it does. It tests that. So there you go. Probe heat is on and tested, and that's really the window heat test. So I don't really know. Anti-ice, we don't need it yet. We're at plus 19 degrees. However, we do have plenty of moisture in the air, so if we see the temperature drop down below 10 degrees and there's still moisture in there, we're going to want to turn anti-ice on. We may even turn it on as soon as we take off just to be safe. Engine bleeds are on. Packs are on auto. Isolation valve is on auto. APU bleed is off. APU switch is off. External lights as required. That's our taxi lights mainly for the moment. Master caution light is off. That's this guy right here. We can hit recall. Okay. So when I hit that, nothing comes up, right? And I can hit both sides. That's the recall button. So they light up because I'm testing it, but by just clicking it, if they stay on, then there's something I need to worry about, right? And that's it. So then for taxi checklist, taxi clearance, we've already got that. We're good. Salute obtained. That just means the ground crew said you're good to go. You can leave. Taxi speed will be, it says less than 20 knots. You can actually go up to 30 knots depending on what airline you're flying for. And the brakes checked. And the brake check takes place actually as we pull out. So everything's good to go. Put this where it belongs. Little jump here. There we go. And let's go ahead and turn the brakes off. There we go. Advance the throttles a little bit. And then brake check. It works. Fantastic. They work, I should say. Bring the throttles back. We don't want to leave them up there. This plane will move. And we're not heavy. We're not flying far, so we're not heavy at all. You can see we're already moving really quick. Okay, our ground speed went up to 12 knots really quick. So we're going to take this all the way to the end. We're going to hang a right, and then our second left, and that'll take us to the runway. And while I'm doing all that, let's go ahead and take care of your departure briefing. Okay, gonna be pretty simple on our departure today. It's gonna be the RNAV Barmy 1. Still trying to figure out for the life of me, where do they come up with the names for these things? Ridiculous. Anyway, we're gonna be taking runway 5 out of here. And if you look at our little inset down here, you can see runway 5 heading 055. Everything's vectors out of here initially, right? So heading 055 up till we hit 1260 feet above sea level, or MSL. Once we hit 1260 MSL, we're gonna be banging it right over here to Meshi. Then from there to 088 degrees out to Gulfy, and then to Barmy, and I'm just loving the names of these things, and then to Bata, and then from there we'll bang a left out here to RDU, which is the Raleigh-Durham VOR, and then from there on course. And of course, it's not a very long flight, so it's going to be pretty close to being on our arrival about the time we get done with our departure, so pretty straightforward there. Departure frequency on 124 knots. And I don't really see anything else on here that's critical for us. Direction we're heading, we don't have to worry about any of the mountains over here, anything like that. We do have some restricted areas as far as flying goes down here. These have to do with Fort Bragg. We won't be flying into those areas anyway. I don't think it's going to be a concern. This is a restricted area here, but interestingly enough, it does not give us any altitude restrictions in here, so I'm not really sure how they deal with that. But of course, in the real world, you simply call whoever's in charge of those areas. You can fly in them, actually. You just have to get in touch with whoever the controlling agency is and get permission and make sure nobody's flying around and you don't get shot down, nothing like that. Good times. Anyway, there's our departure briefing. Off we go. Alright, here we are holding short of runway 5. Everything pretty much ready to go. A couple last minute things. We want to make sure flaps are set. We want to check the recall button again. Trim needs to be set. We've already double, triple checked that. Runway turnoff lights can go on. Landing lights can go on. What else we need? Auto brakes are to RTO. We want to verify it's the proper runway, which we'll be able to see it better as we get on there, but I am pretty confident I have the right runway. So let's take care of our before takeoff checklist real quick. Master caution light needs to be off. That's this guy here. Recall needs to be checked, which we've already checked that a couple times. Flight controls free and correct. There's not a flight control like thing on here, so I mean full up, full down, left, right, all that. We can do all that, but it doesn't. We don't have anything to verify, which I find a little odd actually. Maybe there is, and I just don't know where to find it at. That's possible. We all know that already. Anyway, flaps are already set. We're doing flaps 10 takeoff. That's flaps 10 right there, so we're good to go on that. Trim has been checked. Flight directors are both on, which they are, 1 and 2. So we're going to go on that. Takeoff briefing has been completed. Takeoff clearance is obtained. Strobe lights need to come out. Oh, excuse me, a little hiccup there. And we want to go up. So right click because we want it to be actual strobe and steady. So there we go. Wing lights, landing lights, runway turnoff lights are all on. Engine start switches need to go to continuous, which is 1 to the right. There we go. Those are both in continuous mode. Auto throttle has already been armed and transponder is on TA-RA. So we're going to go on that little jump here. There we go. Which means park and brake off, and let's get this bird in the air. Come on, there we go. Alright, start bringing it up. Just so, for those of you who are not familiar with this layout, V1 is right here, rotate, and then V2, we've already set it at that, and then this is flaps 5. Once we're above that, we can go to flaps 5, above that we can go to flaps 1, and above that we can go flaps up. So there's our information there. That is clearly runway 5, so we're good to go on that. So let's bring it out just a little more, little bit of asymmetric thrust here to help us turn onto the runway nice and sharp. So we can line it up. We should have plenty of runway to work with. Remember, the big thing is that the V1 is substantially lower because of the wet runway. So get her lined up here, at least close to center. We're just a little crooked, but we'll be alright. Let's go and start bringing the throttles up, bring them up to about 50. Some people say 60. We'll go in between. How's that? Let them stabilize for just a second and then hit the toga button. There it is. I've got it mapped to my yoke here. There is a hidden click spot. I think it's like right in here or something like that. A little bit of pull to the right. Alright. Just going to keep pulling back to that side, so we'll watch her close. Excuse me.
V1.
There's V1. Hands off the throttles. There's rotate. Pull her all the way back. And she jumps right up nice and easy. This is a very easy aircraft to fly, by the way. Positive rate of climb. Get the gear coming up. Verify that it is in fact coming up. Watching our speed there. We can go ahead and take out one of those flap settings already.
Gear up.
Take it to flaps 5 there. And we want her to climb. Go ahead and let her climb. Watch your flight director there. Ooh, she's a little windy. Alright, there's the deceleration. You can hear it. Into the clouds we go. Ooh, that's turbulence, by the way. That's not me. Ooh, boy. Okay. Wants us to bring the nose down. Let's go ahead and let's see if the autopilot will automatically go to our waypoints here. That's way over here. Click that. So LNAV and VNAV are on. Alright, let me turn track IR off. There we go. Okay, I was a little to the right, not too bad. Keep an eye on our speed there for the moment. We can bring flaps up again here in just a second. Well, the autopilot's definitely better than I am, aren't they? Flaps 1 there. Okay, see, it's not automatically going to that waypoint, so let's just take care of flaps first. Alright, flaps can come all the way up. Auto brake can go off RTO. And we want to take Meshi and make it the primary waypoint. Execute that, and there you go. She'll start her right turn here. It'll readjust the altitudes. That's okay. Starting our right turn, it should stay around 240 knots until we get above 10,000 feet. You can see we're getting bounced around pretty good. Good times. There's 240. It's going to try and hold that. We're getting bounced around in some good turbulence. I turned them way down. And you can see we're moving through these clouds too. So what's that temperature? Still at plus 18, so we don't need to worry about any ice right now. So I'm going to just leave that as is. Speed's going to keep bouncing around. Airplane's going to keep bouncing around. There's 8,000 feet. Looking pretty good. Let's get her above 10,000. See, it wants to stall. That's not me. That's these crazy turbulence, and I've got them turned down. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but you heard that little stall warning there real quick? Yeah, that's a little insane, isn't it?
10,000 feet, Captain.
There's 10,000 feet. Let's go ahead and turn landing lights off. Taxi lights probably could have come off on there. Let's leave continuous ignition on for the moment just because she's acting a little crazy. Why did the... Okay. So the nose should be coming down. Come on, nose. Come down. There. Now she's fighting to come down a little bit. Look at the speed, though. Watch this speed. Because I'm worried I'm worried we run the risk of stalling. Okay? And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm changing to vertical speed and I'm bringing that way down for the moment. Just to get that speed up a little bit, and then I'll give it back to the LNAV here in just a minute. Okay? Because we're at risk of stall right there. The aircraft's not handling the turbulence well. Apparently I'm gonna have to turn those down quite a bit more. I already turned them down 50%. But we'll go ahead and bring them down more. You can see there's our vertical profile going on there. I like that. I like that view very much. Now the speed's starting to come up a little bit. I like that as well. So we can flip back to LNAV here in a minute. I just want to get that. I want that speed to get above 250, and then I'll switch it back to LNAV and we'll watch it for a second and make sure it's not going to go all bonkers on us. Why did I messed up. I did not set. You know what? I didn't see anything on the checklist that said set the barometric pressure, and I missed it. We're at 3030. That's no good. Okay, go back to LNAV now. And let's watch the vertical speed here. Let's make sure it doesn't go too bonkers. I had it down at 700. Okay, that's looking a little more realistic right there. We can hear the wind coming up in the aircraft. I'm going to turn my volume down just a notch so that I don't feel like I'm yelling too much. But now our speed's coming up where it should be. We're going to be in turbulence for a while now because we've got thunderstorms all around us. This is pretty wild. So we'll keep an eye on that. And let's take care of our after takeoff checklist. Positive rate of climb gear was already up. We've already selected all of our autopilot settings, so we're good to go on all of that. Flaps came up on schedule. Good to go there. It says turn the gear off. I don't remember. I think you can click. Okay. That turns the gear off. I've gotten yelled at by a lot of people for not doing that. I keep saying wait ATT. Something to do with the attitude. Maybe it just doesn't like it because of all the turbulence or something like that. Well, these turbulence are rough, aren't they? Man, and I'm going to have to turn them down even further. This is crazy. There's transition altitude, so we can go back to standard. We'll click on that bad boy, put her at standard. Good to go there. Does it do it on both sides? Yes, it does, both sides. So we're good to go on that. Ooh-wee. She's getting bounced around, folks. We're climbing crazy fast. Look at this. Climbing at over 5,000 feet per minute. That is an insane climb. And look, our speed's starting to drop off again. Why is it climbing so fast? That's dangerous. Okay, we need to reduce that. It's not reducing it on its own for some reason, and I don't know why. It's trying to get to 27.5 at Gulfy. We're almost at 27, but see, that's our caution area right there, and we're pushing up on it really quick. Yeah, we're going to have to take control of it again. Okay, 3,600 feet per minute is what it's set at, but let's bring it way down. Bring it down to 500. That should help get that speed back up. I don't understand why it's doing that. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to keep an eye on that. We've taken care of our after takeoff checklist. We're off the ground, and you know what that means. The only thing left to do is take care of some of that obligatory elevator music. Okay, on to the arrival here then, and a little frustration here trying to get this thing to record. This shadow play just sucks now. It records great, don't get me wrong, when it records, but literally I just hit the record button for this little clip for the arrival briefing here and sat here for almost 2 full minutes before the recording started, actually kicked in. Of course, the problem with that is if you're playing a game or something, and you're trying to record, you hit the record button and all the action kicks off and away you go, and then, you know, 30 minutes later, whatever, you end the recording, you go to check it out, and you find out the first 5 minutes of your friggin' game didn't even record. Well, that's just fantastic, especially if you can't go back and redo it. So, anyway, just it's frustrating. I've already mentioned my frustration about that. Let's talk about the arrival really quick. So, the Dylan 4 arrival, I find it a little odd the way they actually have this set up. So, if you look at this inset, you can see here's Fuber, right? F-U-B-R-R, Fuber, whatever you want to call it, which shows up down here on the chart as well. So basically everything on the arrival that takes place around Fuber is off the normal chart, so you have this little inset. But here's what confuses me. Okay, I get that. Sometimes you do that. We're coming in from FAC, F-A-K, or Flat Rock VOR, which isn't even, it's off the inset. It's another 113 nautical miles away from what this inset has to show. I mean, at what point have we decided that the chart simply does not cover the information that we have to provide, right? Okay, anyway, so we're going to enter around FAC onto the Dylan 4, and then we'll take that on in here to Aut, Paleo, these names are killing me, wait, what's this one? See, it looks like this is this Paleo or is this Paleo? I'm getting a little confused here. I think this one's P, Paleo P, and then on to our Fubar here, or Fuber, or Fubber, or whatever you want to call it. And then from there, it's we got to come down here to see what's going on next into DQO. Looks like DuPont DQO, and we need to be at or above 20,000 there. I didn't mention the at or above 20,000 at Fuber. But at or above 20,000 there, and figuring that it's 34 nautical miles between Fuber and DQO, I don't think we're going to have a problem going from 27,000 down to 20. From there, it's on to Steve, whatever, at or above 13,000 feet. Somto, and then from Somto to Mercer. My name is Roy D. Mercer. If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, well, I feel sorry for you. It looks like Mercer then Dylan, or Dylan then Mercer. I don't know which of these is which, to be honest with you. Then to Metro, and then to Vector. So that, whew, you know what? I guess we shouldn't be that surprised with the amount of air traffic that goes into the area we're headed to. I mean, you've got Teterboro here, you've got Newark here. We're crossing over Philadelphia to get there. You've got JFK. I mean, it's a crazy busy area. So, yeah, good times there. But anyway, once we hit Metro, it's off to Vectors from there. Normally we'd use ATC. Of course, we haven't done that yet. Working on it. Gonna get there one of these days. But honestly, I'm having a good time doing the flying. So it is what it is. And then Vectors from there, and then on to our approach. I think that's pretty much everything. ATIS is on 115.7 and it's on 122. Yeah, I forget off the top of my head. 122 something if we want to use the active sky ATIS New York approach on 125.50. Alright, we're about 30 nautical miles from top of descent here. There's a couple things we got to do to get ready for it. Now, there are some altitude restrictions on the arrival, that you got from the briefing. Sorry, stumbling around here for a second. There are a couple altitude restrictions. So technically, the right way to do it is go to your first altitude restriction or the first altitude given to you by ATC. But that being said, here's our first altitude restriction, and you can see it's already in there. So the FMC will take care of it. Of course, in the real world, you don't rely 100% on that, but I don't have as much time as two pilots would in a real aircraft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it straight down to, in fact, I got to look over here because I almost forgot to check it. What are we looking at? 2,800 feet. So I'm going to take it straight down to 3,000 feet. Now it will meet the altitude restriction. So when it gets to 27,000 feet at FUBAR, whatever you want to call it, until it crosses FUBAR, it's going to stay at 27,000 feet, and then it's going to plan its descent from here to here based on how much space it needs to get from 27,000 to 20,000 and so on. So it'll control the descent for us. Again, the right way to do it in the real world is I would either go to my first altitude given to me by ATC or the first altitude restriction that I have on my arrival or my approach. I'm not doing that because there's only me. I don't have two pilots. I don't have a real aircraft in front of me. There's a lot of moving around and stuff, and I don't want to miss that because I'm in the middle of doing something else. So I'm just taking it down to the altitude I want to be at when I start my approach. That being said, we'll be doing the approach briefing after we start our descent here. But all we need to do for this aircraft, because we have a VNAV selected here, that's the word I was looking for, I just put it to 3,000 feet. I don't have to touch anything. Unlike the Airbus where you have to actually push on the button to initiate the descent, you don't have to do that with a Boeing aircraft. So by putting it to 3,000 feet, or whatever altitude it is you're going to put it at, as soon as I cross this top of descent point right here, the aircraft is going to start the descent on its own, which does make it a little bit easier. You can see that we did make it all the way up to 41,000 feet, so that's pretty cool. So let's take a quick look at our descent checklist. The speed needs to be monitored on the way down, and we can see what the aircraft plans on flying it at by clicking on the descent button here. And you can see the target speed is 324 knots or 0.792 on the Mach. Now that's going to alter a little bit at first because it can't do 327 knots when it first starts to descent. And if it tries to do that, we're going to have to take control of the speed really quick. Once it gets below 10,000 feet, it's 240 knots because that's the speed restriction that we put in there. So that's good. So we'll need to monitor that on the way down. Transition altitude, obviously we'll switch to the local altimeter setting, and then when we go below 10,000 feet we're going to need to turn on the landing lights and all of that good stuff. So that's pretty much it for the descent brief. Now as it's getting ready to start it here, I do want to show you, we set up for the approach already, and we'll be doing the approach briefing here shortly. But to set up the approach, click on departure arrival, click on the arrival, and then we already chose our star. We knew that, and we briefed that, so then we want to choose our runway, and in this case we're flying runway 29. Now, when you see the approach brief, you'll see there's a little more to it. So by choosing 29, it just goes from the last waypoint straight to 29, and that didn't work for me because there's a couple of things we need to do. And as we're coming up, let's let it hit top of descent here before I actually start to do this. But I'm going to show you in the plan mode what I did. And then as we go into the approach briefing, you're going to see why I did that. And this is a really cool approach that we're going to be flying today, so I'm pretty excited about that. So we are 2 nautical miles. There it is. We basically crossed it. So the aircraft starting, you can see here's our vertical speed indicator. It's already starting the descent on its own, and it's in VNAV path. I'm looking at that down here, and that's important. And so it's going to try and maintain this diamond right around the center here. And that's what we want it to be in, VNAV path. Okay, so that being said, flip this over to the plan page really quick. Let's scroll this down so we can actually see. Okay, P's is where we're at. We'll step through here. Maybe. There we go. Somto, Dillon, Mercer, Metro. So Metro was the last waypoint on our arrival. Gritty is the first waypoint on our approach, which you'll find out here pretty soon. So no problem there. Actually, I want to open that up just a little bit. So you see we go Gritty, Cowell, Lawn, and then there's LAW01 and then Chumer. LAW01 I put in myself, and the reason that I did that is because none of these waypoints were in there first of all. By choosing runway 29, it didn't put any of these waypoints in there. It just took me straight from Metro to runway 29 right here. Okay, but when you see the approach briefing, you're going to see that this is the way we have to fly this approach. And the only reason I put this this waypoint in there was because I don't want to go from Lawn straight to Chumer. Not because I'm worried about that last second turn, but because of the way the approach is meant to be flown. So the only reason I'm talking about that is to tell you how to do it really quick. Very simple. When you see the approach briefing, you'll see from Cal we're making a right turn to 071 degrees, and we're continuing on that heading as we cross over Lawn. To put this waypoint in here, I select Lawn right here to put it in the scratch pad, And then I wanted it to be on the same heading, so I select 071 degrees, so lawn 071, then a slash, and then how far out I want it. In this case, it was 3 nautical miles. Okay, so if I put that in here right now, you won't see it. It won't show up because it'll be right under this one, and it'll say the exact same thing, except that it'll say 02, I think. And I'm not going to put it in there, but all you do is you select the waypoint you want that to go in front of. So if I wanted it to go in front of Chumer, I would click on Chumer, and then it inserts it, just like that, okay? And you can see, there it is, it's right there, LAW02, in front of Chumer, and then I would select Chumer and put it in the gap there to connect them. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to erase it. So that's how you put that custom waypoint in there. Very, very simple. And I don't think there's anything else we need to discuss right now, so what I'm going to do is put this back where it belongs. I'm gonna shut my pie hole here for a second. Let me. I just want to double check. Yeah, I know the sound goes out. I want to double check that. There we go. So I need this to stop. Where's the reset button? So I'm looking at the weather and I see that the wind's holding a steady 290, and I'm looking at the approaches for Newark. And then I see this one, the Visual Bridge 29. The first thing pops into my head is the River Visual 19 for DCA, which we flew in unusual, difficult, dangerous approaches. And I'm thinking, well, this might be interesting. Let's take a look. So then I start reading through it, and I'm just like, yeah, we're definitely flying this approach. This is going to be a good time. So let's take a look and a read here what we got going on. So for the Visual Bridge 29 approach, once you're cleared for it, we're reading down here right now, cross the Edison Driscoll Bridge, which is near Gritty Waypoint right here at 2,800 feet, okay? That's at a minimum of 2,800 feet. And then from there, direct to Tremley Point, which is also the Cow Waypoint, okay? And that's at 39 degrees. 39 degrees, there's a hiccup there for you. And then cross Tremley Waypoint at 1,700 feet and bang a right to 071. And from there, it's direct to the Bayonne Bridge. That's out at Lawn Waypoint on heading 071, and then and then to the west end of the Bayonne Golf Course. We're going to continue out over to the golf course here, and then we swing all the way around to the left, descending to cross the Turnpike Bridge, which is the Chumer Waypoint right out here at 500 feet, and then obviously it's on in from there. Now, I've never flown this approach before. This is going to be my first attempt to fly it. It's going to be right here on this episode, so hopefully I won't screw it up too bad. When I flew the River Visual approach, I flew it configured early, so very slow and configured early. And a lot of people were questioning that. Why'd you do that? What? You don't have to fly it that slow. I know I don't have to. Believe me, I know you don't have to. But I kind of do have to because I've never flown it before. If we look at the distances here from the Edison Driscoll Bridge, it's 6 miles to Cow, and then it's 4 miles to Lawn, and then it doesn't even give us a distance, but it's no more than 5 miles to make this left-hand turn, right? So it's 15 miles basically is this approach, and you're busy during all of it. So we're probably going to fly it a little slow because I'm doing the workload of 2 people, and I want to make sure that I've got everything done. I don't want to screw anything up. So that's also why I did it on the River Visual approach. So in the event of a rejected landing, proceed direct to Brave. How do you even say that? MRAVE and then ROWND climb 2000. I don't know how you say that. So that and we can see what that looks like here. Basically, straight out climb until you get to whatever this is, and then out to whatever this is, and then climb to 2,000 feet. So ATIS is on 115.7 again, 122 something for us. Come on, brain function. 122 something if we're using active sky. Tower on 118.3, ground on 121.8, and that is it for the approach brief. Alright, as you can see, we're just about to cross Metro here, and based on that approach brief, you should see that this is going to be a pretty good time. Now I'm going to try and hand fly this. We're at 6,500 feet, probably got down a little quicker than we needed to. That's alright though. Basically, so we've got an arrival checklist here. We've already selected our destination runway. There is one thing I want to do though. Now that runway is pretty short. It's 1,982 meters. So we're going to go ahead with a full flaps landing. If you click on the initial reference button here, here's your options: 15, 30 degrees, and 40 degrees. So we're going to go with 40 degrees and 131 knots. So you click on that and then put it right here in the flap speed. And you could customize one too if you wanted to. But that's basically telling us that's what it should be, so that's what we're going to go with. Just turned it metro there, so looking good. A couple more waypoints to go here, but when we get to Gritty, which is 18 miles from here, we need to be at or above 2,800, and I've got it set to go to 3,000. So really what I'm hoping to do here is just before we get to that point, go ahead and remove the autopilot. And I'm going to leave the auto throttle on because I want to let the aircraft control throttle while we're going through the turn and stuff like that. So I'll try to remember to turn it off right before touchdown, or maybe I'll turn it off. I don't know. We'll see. But we are at the point where we can throw that first flap setting in, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And just like when I did the river visual approach, I'm prepping the aircraft a little early. You can see that changed our speed. Now it's on VNAV speed, which I don't like. What's our altitude? Yeah, see, we're a little high for that. Let me bring in a little bit of speed brake there. Anyway, what I was getting at is you can see that we're prepping the aircraft a little bit early here, and that's all right. By prepping it early, it's going to give me more time to worry about the actual landing, so I'm not trying to jump through hoops at the last second. I've already gone ahead and set the speed brake to 2. I think that'll be more than enough when we throw in reverse. Let's take care of our approach checklist right now. The approach is selected and briefed. We don't need any frequencies for it. We're not intercepting an ILS or a localizer or anything like that. Auto brake is set. Auto spoilers need to be armed. I will do that here shortly. I'm hoping to get back. It's staying on VNAV speed here. So let me go ahead and throw in a little more. See, we're right on top of this. Why is it not going to VNAV path? I really dislike when it does that. I might need to put the next flap setting in there in order to do that. There it is, VNAV path. Okay, now we can take the speed brake out and arm it. I use Shift Tab, it's just easier, so you can see that it's armed there. Alright, what else we got here? Engine start switches need to be in continuous. I've already done that, that's up here. In fact, I don't think we ever took them out. And then it'll be flaps, VREF, landing gear, all of that, which we haven't done yet, but we're getting ready to. I'm thinking, based on the angle we're coming in here at, yeah, so this is the Edison Driscoll Bridge. We'll be hanging a left, and then this should be the outer bridge crossing here. That's what I'm thinking. Let me get the track IR on here. So that one's right at the mouth of the river. Yeah. So this is the Edison Driscoll Bridge where we're supposed to be at 3,000 feet, and we're not even close, which is a little frustrating, to be honest with you. But we've got it set for Gritty, so we need to be at or above 2,800, so we're all right. So we're going to turn to 039 degrees from there, from Gritty to Cow. We're going to let the aircraft do its thing, except that I'm going to go ahead and change this for now. I will be getting rid of that, but we want to be at 1,700 at Cow, so let's go ahead and put that in there. And hopefully it won't get too choppy here. So that'll be the next bridge, and then Cow will cross over, and then the Bayonne Bridge should be maybe out over here. No, that should be another bridge. The Bayonne Bridge should cross. Oh, I'm looking off to the left here at my chart. Well, either way, when we get to Cow, we're going to hang it right to 071. We should be able to see the golf course out there, and as we start to come over the golf course, we'll start making our left turn towards the runway. And we should be able to see the airport off over there. There's the airport right there. So let's let the aircraft do a little bit of work for us here. But after it completes the turn here at Gritty, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the autopilot off. I will leave the auto throttle on, but we'll turn the autopilot off. Let's go ahead and bring in that next flap setting here. All the way up to flaps 10. But I'm not going to bring the landing gear down, not quite yet. Should be making our turn here shortly. I purposely made my view a little higher so I can kind of see where we're going and stuff like that. Again, we're crossing over the Edison Driscoll Bridge now. This should be the outer bridge crossing here. And then it kind of follows the river line here to Cow, which is up here, and then we'll hang a right. So Lawn will actually be over here. And once we get to Lawn, we'll start gradually making that left turn, swinging all the way around. So it is in some ways similar to the river visual approach, except that this one is the visual bridge, and you're using the bridges as your visual reference point. Okay, so we're just about done in this turn here. Let's go ahead and turn the autopilot off. It's a little choppy, my apologies. Alright, autopilot's off. Bring it all the way around to 039 degrees. There we go, 039. Fly this up here to, come on, scroll down. Fly this up here to Cow, turn to 071 once we reach Cow. And at Cow we want to be at we want to be at 1700 at Cow. And we only got a little ways to go, so we're definitely going to bring her down. Let's go ahead and lower the landing gear now. We can see runways dead ahead. Those are not the runways we're shooting for. Little nose down trim in there.
2500.
I'm bringing that next setting of flaps. I'm letting the auto throttle control the speed right now. What did we say we want our speed to be at? Let's check it real quick. Initial reference 131. Okay, so looking pretty good here. Almost up to Cow. And we're descending at a decent rate here, 500 feet per minute. Not real fast. We could get down a little bit quicker, because we're going to be swinging around quick, and I can't even from here, I can't really tell which runway is ours, so yeah, good times. Alright, so let's speed intervene now, take it down to 131, bring in that next flap setting. Spoilers are already armed, auto throttle's doing its job. Looking pretty good right now. There's 1860, so we're just about going to hit our 1700. We're probably going to be just a little high. I don't really want to be. And then we kind of hold that there until we pass Chumer, which we should be at 500 feet. Whoa, she dropped all of a sudden there, didn't she? Okay, well, the timing was pretty good. We just passed below 1700 feet. Now we're starting our turn from Cow. Nice easy descent here. Out to Lawn. Trying to keep it from dropping too quick on me. There we go, 071 degrees. Looking pretty good. I don't want her to climb. You can hear that. You can hear them throttles working though, can't you? Yeah, so I definitely brought them in a little earlier than I needed to, but yeah, I'm trying to concentrate and talk at the same time. Definitely brought the got her configured a little bit early here, but that's all right. I'm looking for my runway. It's all right that we got her configured a little bit early, because we need to focus on what we're doing here. See, I can't even talk right now. Okay, so you can see we're descending about 500 feet per minute, which isn't too bad. 71 degrees, we're holding that right now. We're going to cross over to Lawn. And Lawn is basically right in front of that bridge right there. Okay? So, Lawn is basically like right here. That's our waypoint. We're going to cross over just a little bit further. Ooh, why'd she go way over there? Back to 071. Okay? Why is it descending really fast, too? Yeah, we're too low right now. Way too low. Get back up there, you. Okay. Okay, so Lawn's pretty much right below us. We're going to go just a little bit further here, and then as we hit the golf course up there, which I don't know if it's actually modeled out here. It doesn't look like it is. Doesn't look like they included it in there. We're at 900 feet. Looking pretty good, actually. The view's probably a little wacko. It probably looks like moving all over the place. We should be able to see our runway as we start our turn up here. There's our runway right there, by the way. That's our runway, that one. And I'm still looking for the golf course. We don't want to descend too much right now. The golf course is, it should be right up in here. So we crossed over that. Yeah, we're pretty much Yeah, see, this is supposed to be golf course here. Okay, so we need to start our turn. Okay, watch our rated descent here, because we don't want to go below 500 until we cross over. Oh, that's way too fast on the turn. We don't want to go below 500 until we cross over Chummer there. Chummer. Yeah, I turned in a little sharp there. We should have been turning already, though. Watch, I probably got it wrong. I don't see a golf course, but we should have been turning before those. But it's a really light turn, so looking for the runway. There's the runway. I can just see it, and it should actually take us right out over that bridge there. See that bridge? That's where we want to be. Right out over that bridge. Watch that rated descent there. Boy, she started diving on us, huh? We're way too low right now, and it's getting choppy for some reason. I have no idea why. Yep, right out over the bridge. Okay, the only thing I'm not controlling right now is the throttles. Everything else is all me. Just a skosh low here. I don't like that. Okay, start to level her out just a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and kick that auto throttle off here. There's the auto throttle getting kicked off. Take care of that. Looking pretty good. Still just a little low here. Boy, that chop is ridiculous, isn't it? Okay, hanging in there. Watch that speed. There we go. Now we're coming on glide slope. So we got just a little low, a little too low there. It wasn't horrid, but it wasn't the greatest thing either. Okay, now we want to go ahead and let her descend, but not too fast. Watch that speed. Nice and easy. Just swing her all the way around here. Got just a little high. That's all right. Get her back on glide slope here in just a second.
300.
Looking pretty good. That's not too bad considering, especially with the chop in there.
Minimums.
But I should have set my view a little further back so I could see a little better, so I could see the rated descent and all of that. But that's all right.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Little float. Not too bad, not too bad. Alright, we brought her to a stop here. We got the flaps up already. I still don't know what's up with those. I mean, those frame rates are horrid. You know what, though? We're in New Jersey. We're right near New York. It's got to have something to do with that. I don't know. I've got a bunch of PDFs running over here. Let me close all those real quick. That's probably what's... close all the stinking tabs. No. That's an annoying thing about the new PDF. Wouldn't you agree? Anyway, that might help a little bit anyway. Not really. Didn't make a lick of difference, did it? I don't have my internet running or nothing. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and take care of our after landings. Speed brakes have been brought up. Flaps are up. Probe heat can go off actually at this point. Jump back up top here and turn off the probe heat. We could even turn the window heat off if we wanted to, probably, but I'll just leave it. Engine start switches, well, we can't turn those off. Well, I'm sorry, engine start switches can go off. There we go, those go to the off position. Landing lights can come off and taxi lights can go on. There we go. Strobe lights can go off. What else? Flight directors, you can put those off and transponder on standby and then start the APU, right? So, let's get the APU fired up here. Left click it twice. There she goes. She's firing up. Flight directors can both go off. Wow, that is really choppy, guys. I don't know why it's doing that. My apologies, but there's nothing I can do about it. So, and then this guy to standby. No, I said standby. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to start taxiing it in here. And, yeah, I don't think you guys want to sit here for the whole taxi, right? I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to either. So I'm going to go ahead and taxi it in. It won't take me but a minute here. And then I'm going to hop back on here with you guys, and we will take care of shutting everything down. Alright, we got her parked here. Let's go ahead and at least start by getting the left engine shut down. We can open the door. Passengers can start offloading. Hop up top here. You can see we've got the APU running already, so let's go ahead and flip it to APU power. Jump back down here. Now we can turn off engine number 2. I apologize for the chop. There we go. Engine number 2 coming off, but we're on APU power, so the power will stay on the aircraft without any problems there. So we're good on that. What else we need to do here? We need to have those guys put the chocks in, so let's go and do that. Remember, on this one I'm just kind of doing things by memory, and then we'll go and we'll look at our checklist. So the chocks are in. We're not going to connect ground power. I'm not worried about that. So we're good to go there. And let's see. Hop up top here. We could turn window heat off. We could turn off the fans. Nope. Off. Wrong way. Off. That guy's fine right there. Turn him off. APU bleed can come on. That'll be for the guys later on. Yaw damper can go off. There we go. We're good on all that. Engines are already shut down. Those are where they should be. We're looking good there. We can turn off seatbelt signs. We didn't do that yet, so we're good to go on that. Fuel pumps can come off. I don't remember which one is supposed to be. I think it's the left aft, isn't it? It's for the APU. But I think it runs even if you have all these fuel pumps off. Now, I don't know if that's because of an error in the way the aircraft was made, or if that's how it works in the real world. Not sure. We turned the taxi light off as we pulled in, so we're good on that. Logo lights can stay on for the moment. Anti-collision can stay on. Wing and wheel well can both go off. We're good there. We don't need to change anything. We could reset some things here. Boy, that chop's terrible. We could reset some things here on the MCP if we wanted for the next crew, but we're not even going to mess with that. And we're not going to mess with the FMC. So let's take a look at our shutdown checklist here. Brakes set. I believe they are, but let's double check. Yep, brakes are set. So we get the brakes set. Start levers are already cut off. We're not using ground power. Doors are open. Fuel pumps are all off. Signs are off. Window heat's off. Probe heat's off. Hydraulics are off. All bleeds are off. Isolation valve goes to closed. I think we left it on auto. We did. So up for close. Isolation valve is now closed. Recirc fans on auto. I was wrong about that. I thought they had to go off. Okay, recirc fans go back to auto then. That's fine. External lighting off. And now the last couple things we got to do for actual shutdown. So what we can do is go ahead and turn the APU off. Okay, that shuts that down. We're still on battery power, so right-click this guy, right-click the knob. That turns off the battery. Now the aircraft is completely shut down. We can make sure those logo lights and anti-collision lights come off as well. Those jetways look really nice, don't they? I really like it. So we're all shut down. Everything's good to go. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yep, that's the end of our checklist. Everything's rocking and rolling. It was a good flight. I enjoyed it. I hope that you guys let me know, in fact, how you feel about the format I did this time. So a little more into just going through the flows and then go back and look at the checklist, or do you guys prefer it when I really go through the checklist one step at or one item at a time and make sure that we're not missing anything, and explain everything as we go? Because I could do it either way. This way works just fine for me. It does make it a little faster. I didn't quite park far enough forward, did I? It does make it a little bit faster, a little bit shorter as far as the flight is concerned, but overall, it doesn't really make a difference to me. Whatever you guys' preference is. So before we head back over to the website, once again, if you haven't taken the opportunity to do so, please go ahead and smash down on that subscribe button. We're up to almost 2,500 subscribers. Unbelievable. I thank every one of you for your support. I truly do appreciate it. And yeah, keep on charging. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you can now follow us on Twitch at CaptainMac3588. Haven't done a live stream in a little while, but we are going to be doing some here pretty soon. And the live stream that we're going to be working on, or live streams, is going to be a series of them that's going to include you. So if you don't have FS Cloud and you want to fly the live streams with me, you'll want to download and install FS Cloud. It's perfectly free, and we're going to be flying the DC-3 over the hump from the US to Vietnam, recreating a flight that one of my subscribers, Shaker MT, his father actually did in the DC-3, or I think it's called the C-47 for the military version, way back in Vietnam. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be several flights, and I hope to see all of you there. Make sure you go over and like us on Facebook, because that's where the announcement is going to take place. All of that being said, let's hop back over to the website, wrap everything up really quick, and we'll call this one done and dusted. All right, here we are back on the website, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, our location is now at KEWR. Knocked about 2 hours off there, 144 to go to that next promotion, which does allow us to fly another aircraft or two, I believe. But we got a pretty good selection while we're flying as a captain, so that's good. No bids left. That's what we wanted. Here's the PIREP for this particular flight. KCLT to KEWR, total revenue $14,477.41. That's pretty darn good. Profit percentage was 63, so we did really good on that one. We were definitely early. Touchdown speed was really nice, minus 65.36. Not too bad considering everything was kind of choppy in the sim and stuff like that. But we got her done, didn't float her too far. So everything was pretty darn good. This was a good flight. I enjoyed this one very much. And that means we need to see what comes next. Now, let me get something out of my way here real quick, and I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. I know that one flight is going to be to, I believe it's CYYT, but let's double check. Let's go from current location. I believe it's CYYT. Yep, St. John's, Newfoundland. And we are not flying it in the E-170 or E-145. Your option is for United Airlines A320. So that's option number one, is to fly up to St. John's, Newfoundland. And then from St. John's, there is a flight across to Heathrow. And I'll just show that to you real quick so that you can see I'm not making it up. St. John's to EGLL. And there's only one flight there. And that's that one. So that'd be a flight that, I think, if I remember correctly, actually, that'd be two flights in the A320, because we can fly this one. I actually find it very odd that this flight is an A319, because it's literally right at the maximum range for that aircraft, whereas the A320 has slightly longer range, and of course the 21 even longer than that. But nonetheless, there you have it. Now, if we go over to our aircraft substitution chart real quick, and we come down here to Airbus. So they retired. See, it used to be 318, 319, and then 320, and there was 320 and 321. Those are all retired now. It used to be there was no substituting, but now you can see that for the Airbus, you can fly the 318, 19, 20, or 21. If they're on the same line, you can substitute one for the other. So even though that's a 319 flight, we'll fly it in the FS Labs A320. We have the airplane, we might as well use it. So that's option number one. Once again, Newark to St. John's, Newfoundland in the A320. And let's see what we got for option number two here. Captain, find flights. And there's a bunch of them there. We got 37 pages worth. Now, I want to start making our way over to London. I think that's what you guys want to do too. So anything with an M in it is going down to going down to Mexico. Beatrix Luchthaven. Let's see where that's at. If you click on the airport, by the way, it will pull up an airport page that will show you some information about that airport. So we'll click on TNCA because I'm thinking I might like that as an option too. That's a 737, so that keeps us of having the option of one airplane or another. That's Aruba. That's Aruba is what that is. So yeah, TNCA. So let's take a look at that real quick. Come back here. TNCA. I like that, actually. I like that a lot. So from here to TNCA. Actually, that's not what I want to do. I want to go TNCA here. TNCA. I can't type. Okay. And you know what? I'm not even going to do it there. Let's do it down here. Watch this. This is even easier. TNCA. So if we go from there and we want to auto route to EGLL, let's see what it tells us. Captain, find flights, and give it a minute because it's slow. But I'm thinking this is going to be our option. Yeah, so we're going to end up, if we do that, it looks like we'll go from so TNCA is a long way down. Remember, we're way up here. That'll take us down to TNCA, and then MDJB, MDPC, CYHZ, CYYT, and then EGLL. So if we want to get over to Europe, then that's our best option. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make TNCA option number 2, and that'll just that'll take us to some new places. And it should be fun, actually. It should be a good time. But I think I know what you guys want. And that works for me, too. So TNCA from KEWR in the 737. If we go that route, I do want to get over to London. So if we go that route, I'm going to start really being picky about making sure flights head this way. Whether we go over to Africa first and then up or what, I don't know. But there you have it. That's everything, folks. Yeah, let's hop over to our pilot center page here. There we have it, folks. So we're done with this one. Everything's wrapped up. You've got your 2 options. Please remember to reply to the voting thread, otherwise your vote will not be counted. I thank you all once again for joining me on this flight, and as always, keep the blue side up unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.